So tonight's video is about creating box and whisker plots. We've kind of already done a lot of the work that requires us to make a box and whisker plot, but now we're just kind of going to put that work in practice. So box and whisker plots use the 5-number summary, which is our minimum value, our Q1, our median, Q3, and our maximum value. The box itself is made up with the Q1, the median, and the Q3, and then the whiskers go out to our minimum and maximum values. This means that the middle 50% of our data, or the IQR, can be easily seen with the box. It also allows us to see how the top and bottom 25% of the data are spread out with the whiskers, as well as how the middle 25% within our IQR is spread out as well, because sometimes there are big differences there. So the nice thing about a box plot is that it easily allows us to identify the median and IQR, and it allows us to determine if the data is symmetric or skewed. The downfall with a box and whisker plot is that you can't actually determine if it's unimodal or bimodal, multimodal, or uniform. Those aren't visible in the box plot. But we can see the range, the IQR, and the median, as well as the symmetry. It also makes it really nice to compare data because you can put multiple box plots on the same scale so that they are right next to each other for easy comparison. And comparison of data is really what we're going to focus on in Chapter 5. When you make a box and whisker plot, we have to use what are called fences. These fences are how we can determine whether a data point is actually an outlier or not. There are two fences, the lower fence and the upper fence. If a data value is smaller than your lower fence or larger than the upper fence, then it would be considered an outlier. Fences are never actually drawn in to the box and whisker plot. Sometimes you might use a dotted line, but then you would end up erasing that dotted line. To calculate the lower and upper fence, the lower fence is Q1 minus 1.5 times your IQR, and your upper fence is your Q3 plus 1.5 times your IQR. And again, any values that lie outside of those fences will be given like a little dot outside of the whisker to show that they are outliers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at a couple of examples. Just for the warning, the volume may decrease, so you'll have to turn up the volume. So just remember to turn it back down when I'm done with the examples, otherwise you might blow out your ears. Our first example is of the number of states we visited from the data that we collected on the second day of school. When we're making a box plot, the first thing that we have to do is put the numbers in order. So putting these in order, we would have 3, 4, 7, 7, 8, 8, 13, 14, 17, 18, 20, 22, and 40. When we're making our box plot, we really need our 5-number summary, so we have to find our median and our quartiles. Since we have 13 data values here, we have a true middle value, and that is 13. Now we have a lower half and an upper half. So our lower half will give us our Q1. So I split our lower half in half, and that's going to be right in between 7 and 7, which is 7. Then to find our Q3, we use the upper half, and that's going to be right in between 18 and 20, which is going to end up giving us 19. Once we have these, I need to calculate my fences to determine if we have any outliers. So I have to calculate my IQR. So my IQR is equal to 19 minus 7, which is 12. Then our fences use 1.5 times our IQR, so I'm going to go ahead and calculate that right away, and that gives me 18. So then my lower fence is equal to my Q1, 7, minus 1.5 times the IQR, 18, and I get negative 11. Our upper fence is our Q3, 19, plus 1.5 times our IQR of 18, and I get 37. Now I have enough information to be able to make our box plot. So I'm going to draw just a straight line, and I'm going to have an even and consistent scale. So I'm going to go ahead and count by 2s. So I start at 2, 10, 20, 30, and 40. So I put my median, 13, in first, and I draw a line perpendicular to my number line. So 13 is going to be about right here. Then I put my quartiles in. So Q1 is 7, which is going to be about right here. And my Q3 is 19, which is about right here. And then I make a box out of those. So that's our box. Then our whiskers would go out to our minimum and maximum values if they were within our fences. Since our lower fence is -11, 3 is absolutely within that fence. So I can go ahead and plot 3 and draw a smaller line perpendicular to the number line and then connect it to the box. My highest number is 40, so that's our max, and that is past our fence. Our fence of 37 is going to be about right here, and 40 is right here. So since 40 is outside of our fence, 40 is an outlier. Therefore, when I draw my whisker, if you have the data, we can draw our whisker to that next highest value, which is 22, which would be right here. So this is my box and whisker plot. I have my box with my whiskers, and then our outlier at 40. And we don't need the dots marking the fence, so that would be our box and whisker plot right there. Our second example is when you're already given the 5-number summary. So the following numbers show the 5-number summary of midterm scores out of a possible max of 50 points. So we have our minimum, our Q1, our median, our Q3, and our maximum. So we actually have very little that we have to do here. But we do need to determine if our minimum or maximum values will end up being outliers. So we have to calculate our fences. So again, the first thing I do is calculate my IQR, which is going to be 43.5 minus 32, which is equal to 11.5. Then I do 1.5 times my IQR, and I end up equaling 17.25. So to find my lower fence, I take my Q1 of 32, and I subtract 17.25, and I end up with 14.75. To find my upper fence, I use my Q3 of 43.5, and I add 1.5 times my IQR of 17.25, and we end up with 60.75. Once I have these, I can look to see, is my minimum value less than my lower fence? And 14 is less than 17 or 14.75, so it is an outlier. So my minimum value is an outlier. My upper fence is 60.75, and my maximum is not greater than that, so my maximum is not an outlier. So then when I make my box and whisker plot, I have to have my number line. And I'm going to, again, count by twos, but this time I'm going to go ahead and start at 10. Once I have my number line with a consistent scale that is labeled, I can then plot everything. So I start with my median again at 39, so that would be about right here. And then my Q1 is 32, which is here. My Q3 is 43.5, so right here. And then I connect these 3 lines to make a box. Since my maximum value is within my upper fence, I can go ahead and plot my maximum value about there and make that my whisker. Since my minimum value of 14 is lower than my lower fence, it is an outlier. So 14 is going to have to be a point. Now, my fence is 14.75, and so that is going to be about right here. That is supposed to be a bunch of dots. I did a poor job with that. I don't have all of the data, so I don't know what the next smallest value is. So what we do is we draw our whisker where our fence is supposed to be, or where our fence is, and then we connect it from there. Because we don't really know, so we just go to the fence. So that ends up being our box and whisker plot. If you're just given the 5-number summary, you can determine if your minimum or maximum are outliers, but only those 2 points. And then your whiskers will go to your fences. And the rest of it you can do. But that is all I have for tonight, so I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you in class tomorrow.